Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your podcast here at Action Coach here in Central Texas. Today, I have Rodrigo Alvarez, founder and CEO of Elysium Robotics. Today, we're going to be talking about his business journey to ownership, the challenges and best practices, and share a sneak peek of what it's really like to build and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop new conversations just like this one. So, welcome, Rodrigo, and thank you for being here today. Please give us a brief overview of your background and tell us a little bit about your business.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. I was born and raised in Mexico City, and I always had a knack for engineering. So I became a nerd and studied mechanical, electrical, bioengineering, and neuroscience. And at the same time, very inventive, very creative person wanting to build robots in a way that were way more capable and way more lifelike or more human-like. So I went to grad school at Stanford University, and I've just come up with ideas of how to do this. Around 2018, we decided to start Elysium as a way of solving a fundamental problem in robotics, which is how do we move them? How do we create that motion? Typically, we use electric motors, but those are very deficient. So we're exploring a new technology that looks way more like our muscles. We call them muscle-like actuators. And we're hoping this enables us to build very capable and very low-cost robotic systems to solve all sorts of automation and repetitive jobs, essentially.
Wow, that is incredible. You had me at robotics. I am a big nerd. I love science. So, this is going to be such a fun conversation. I would love to hear, tell me a little bit about the role that you're currently playing in your business.
Yeah, no, so we're a very small company. So essentially I play every single role, or most of them, from talking with clients to doing the deep technical work, as well as a lot of investor fundraising and connections with those. So I have some engineers helping me out, doing the deep science, but mostly as a small company, we all have to do all roles.
It's very true. And it's like, it's sometimes it's just wearing those multiple hats for sure. So, how many hours would you say roughly uh, per week do you spend working like on your business, like the job part of your business? And then how many hours for in the business, like strategy, planning, and things like that?
Well, the reality is that being a deep tech startup, you have to commit entirely to the business. So, and also it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So typically I will spend between 60 and 80 hours a week, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. But that's more or less the balance. And it shifts a lot because sometimes there's a lot of business work that needs to be done and prepare presentations, do projections, etc, and you focus on that, and sometimes you focus more on the technical things. So it's not like you're doing all things at the same time. It's more like role switching between one and the other,
Mhm.
weeks or so.
100%. That kind of leads me into, who does your business primarily serve? Like, if I were in the audience, how would I would know I was a good fit for your product or service?
Right. So this is a new technology, and it's a platform technology that serves many businesses or many different kind of fields. At the simplest level, we're making replacements for electric motors. So we serve companies building robotic system and automation systems. Specifically, companies working in the humanoid space right now, they're really excited about our technology because as we've seen a really fast progression of both artificial intelligence as well as the actual humanoids. But if you look closely, they're still very limited in their hands, in their ability to do something. They either have very primitive hands or no hands, or something that looks like a hand but is not really very capable. So, and that's because, again, electric motors are not good for that. So they're really excited about that. Beyond that, our technology also enables us to build robotic grippers, and that allows us to serve the entire kind of robotic and automation community. And finally, we're super excited as a third phase to our business to be able just to provide solutions to small business owners and businesses everywhere. For example, we think we can make hands that are very capable at handling soft goods like strawberries or avocados or peaches. So
Mm.
providing the service directly to farmers and packers and food preparers and all sorts of small businesses that today require very tedious, very repetitive kind of labor tasks.
Wow, I could see that like being big in almost like farming. Is that kind of the route you're thinking of going?
We're exploring that. Each vertical has its own challenges. Farming is challenging in the sense that it's been outdoors, equipment has to be very robust, and
Mhm.
also there's a very low cost labor that can do it today. So you have to mature the technology to a certain point where you can address that market. But we're getting a lot of traction in the garment industry to automate like sewing processes
Mm,
and more like food packing and kind of food processing that is done inside a warehouse rather
okay.
than.
That makes sense. Definitely. That's really intriguing. I like the work in robotics and seeing some things that are going on. And so this is really incredible news. And how would your competitors compare with you right now?
That's really interesting. There's really very few people working at such a fundamental level of kind of revolutionizing robotics from the bottom up. We think that our core technology is based on electrostatic actuation, just a physical principle where positive and negative charges attract each other. We think that gives us a monumental competitive advantage against anybody else working with like high pressure pneumatic systems, hydraulic, electromagnetic, everything else under the sun. Um, in our perspective, is not the right way to do this. So we are developing just a very deep competitive advantage in terms of, at the end of the day, this is a game of numbers and performance. So in terms of the strength that our devices can do, how lightweight they are, how power effective they are, how fast, and all sorts of these characteristics that make it a good solution for robotics.
Definitely. That's incredible. The technology sounds just like I'm very curious to dive in more about that. Thinking about the business as a whole and the marketing behind it, what are some of your strategies to kind of getting the word out? Are you targeting certain people or certain companies to work with?
For sure. Well, so far we've been more in deep research mode and somewhat development. So we've been not necessarily in stealth, but for sure under the shadows until we mature our technology. But we're making that transition right now. And we're doing that by essentially connecting directly with strategic partners that we think are most beneficial at the time.
Hmm.
Again, like for example, robotics companies, humanoids companies, we're talking with medtech companies, we're talking with big automation companies. So just trying to find those initial strategic partners. We're considering, as soon as we start releasing our first samples, opening up to the general hobbyist community because there's thousands of hobbies out there that have been dreaming about this kind of stuff for building their own robots. And that's something we still have under consideration in terms of, it's what is the right time to do it. We definitely want to do it,
Hmm.
but we're still considering what the right timing for that would be.
Yes, definitely. And when it comes to your strategic partners, we're always looking at ways to organize our the people we work with. Do you have a track or a certain type of CRM that you would recommend or prefer that like has worked for you with organizing those people?
We don't use a specific CRM. The number of partners we're seeking are a dozen or so, so we can keep it without the need of really kind of standardizing it and moving into a CRM yet. So no, we still do
Okay.
the old school kind of spreadsheets and notes. Yes.
Definitely. Well, I'd like to dive into a little bit about your journey. You gave me a little brief introduction, but what really inspired you to choose to go into a business for yourself, as opposed to choosing to work with somebody else?
Yeah, well, I think it's just a sense of adventure and kind of an entrepreneurial blowout, right? I worked for many years at IBM, and that was a phenomenal experience to learn to work at a massive company with a team of very diverse and across the world people. But I wanted to do more. I wanted to move faster. I wanted to work in different spaces, and I just had it in me, really. I don't know if there's any way to explain it. It's just like climbers see a mountain and they have to go and climb it, and it's not irrational things most of the times. I think I just had the spark in me to go and try to do this.
That is incredible. Like, what was that transition like for you? Just kind of talking to those other people who are in the room, the entrepreneurs who are looking to kind of find how to make this happen.
The typical story, and I fell into the same pattern, is that you're working in a big company, and at some point your job becomes something you can handle without additional kind of strain or so, and you start getting extra time. So you start noodling with a side idea, and before you know it, that gains some traction, and you decide to make the switch. So, yep.
That's the way. That's always the really awesome way to do it. It's like it just starts as a spark, an idea, and like grows into something, and then all of a sudden you're like, you start something brand new. That's really cool.
Yeah, and when we first started working on this, we try to kill it as fast as possible, finding the biggest risks, the weakest links, the things that would make it fail, and we couldn't kill it. So we haven't been able to kill it. We're still pursuing it. So
That
yes.
is the best. You couldn't kill it. Like that's the best piece of advice. Try it, try and kill it, and it survives. You're good to go. That's incredible. And so looking back at your journey this far, what is like one of the most memorable roadblocks or hurdles that you were challenged with that you had to overcome?
Oh, there's been so many deep technical rabbit holes that we've had to go in which this project has been a project of extremes, making extremely small things, but that are extremely long, or high pressure, low temperature, high voltage, low current. There's always kind of been a project of extremes. So there's many, many stories in which we think we solved something, and suddenly you recognize that there's a big compromise to be made and have to find deeper, more creative solutions to really find the sweet spot and kind of the cracks through the process. It's also been difficult kind of from a fundraising perspective. We're working on such a kind of new technology that is profoundly disruptive, but has to go kind of from the cradle to being more competitive than what exists out there.
Mm.
And that takes a lot of work and nurturing and time and effort and creativity and money. And there's very few like government entities or funding resources that are willing to kind of take this early stage deep technologies to it. So it's been challenging finding that and also learning how different and how unique it is to really pursue a deep tech company or a deep tech startup versus a
Mhm.
startup, something that is, software or services or something different. So I think that's been the biggest challenge. Just understand that we are doing something that's kind of a class of its own, and we just have to kind of find the way to make it happen.
Oh, 100%. And in forms of like, and talking about like communication, like how would you create or how did you create your, I guess your quote, your elevator pitch for your business, with it being such an innovative business, how do you communicate that with people?
A lot of trial and error and mirroring, seeing the responses. We've been delighted to work with a wide number of mentors and just helpers. People really are incredibly generous with their time and with their energy. And in this the community, it's just like such a wonderful collaborative energy across all sorts of startup founders, mentors, investors, etc. So it's really a lot of back and forth. Being a deeply technical person, sometimes it's hard to communicate without losing the audience. So just learning kind of what works, how other people perceive it with diverse backgrounds, and it's something that evolves as the early days where you just have a napkin and some really nerdy idea. There's only a couple of people who are gonna get it, and as you start kind of making it more mature, more transparent, more obvious, um, you learn how to talk about it a little bit better, but it's also easier for people just to understand it in general.
Yes, 100%. It's like it kind of finesses itself as you go on the process of it and talk to more people about it.
And it takes a long, long time. Yes.
Definitely, I understand. What impact so far has all of this experience had on your growth as a business owner?
Um, I, I had the time of my life here, just kind of overcoming all these challenges and taking responsibility for everything that happens, essentially, right? I mean, I have a great set of investors and angels and mentors and collaborators, but at the end of the day, you have to kind of take ownership, right? So that's been phenomenal. And the confidence of just kind of being able to take on really deep problems, being steady emotionally, and just, working through them. So it's a roller coaster, this kind of the startup and the deep tech space, but it's been just kind of a transformative experience, right? Um, we're super excited about the progress we're making and the outcomes of the future, the projections. But if I ever had to do something else, I feel really confident that I can build almost anything, So yeah.
That's incredible. I absolutely love that. And you thinking about those things as you're building and as you're growing, where do you see your business going in the next 3 to 5 years?
I think the first step that we're gonna tackle is we're gonna provide actuation modules to companies. So hopefully we can soon start shipping truckloads of new little muscles to robotic companies and essentially seed a new generation, kind of like a little bit like the Intel Inside model, where Intel built a microprocessor and then had many companies kind of build computers around it. We would love to be like that, like a model where we are a core technology that enables an unprecedented level of value and enables like many applications. So yeah.
There's a lot. It sounds like a lot going on. You're juggling a few things, you know. How do you set your goals? Like, do you set multiple goals at once, or how do you keep track of your goals and milestones?
That's a really challenging thing, especially since we're still kind of coming out of research and many other things are not as predictable as one would want. And again, we trip into little rabbit holes and things have to be done. And there's tasks that you may anticipate that take 4 hours, but end up taking 20 hours.
Mhm.
And there's really no shortcut. You have just to do it well. If you try to do the shortcut, you end up, tripping and coming back. And it's not a shortcut if you get lost.
Mm.
So just juggling, just kind of what is the most important thing that I need to do today? Sometimes people are like, "Oh, we have a deadline coming up in 2 weeks," and to me, 2 weeks is like light years away, right? Let's focus on today, the next couple of hours, and then we'll get to that deadline, right? But just kind of prioritizing the most critical things up front.
Mm. Mhm. And as you're developing your team, is there training that you believe that your team is gonna be going through to be equipped for the business, like, within the next 6 months, or are you working on things like that?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. This is a new field. We're opening a white space, so there's a lot of exploration and research and discovery that all the new team members are going through. Firstly, on understanding what the landscape is today, understanding our competitive advantage, understanding where we are today, where we're going to be in a year, where we're going to be in 2 years,
Mhm.
uh, and then just finding the roadmap and the opportunities and the way to do it, right? It's really exciting way to work in white space opportunities, but at the same time, there's no map, right? It's more like looking between the holes, kind of. So
Mhm.
it's an enormous amount of really just creativity and kind of deep thinking about the problems.
100%. It's almost like you're in like the bush in South Africa and you have to take the machete and you're forging this new path into some new territory.
That's right, like the early explorers for sure. Yes.
Very, very true. Well, this has been an incredible conversation. As we're kind of beginning to wrap up, I'd love to ask you some of these rapid fire questions. These are just like first thing that comes to mind, quick answers for our audience.
Shoot.
Okay, so what is like the key to success for you?
We have to demonstrate better performance than any available technology.
Hmm. And what is one piece of advice that you have for other business owners?
Go in with your eyes open. It's an incredible adventure, but talk to others before you jump in because you need to make sure that you have it in you to persevere through the entire journey.
Hmm. What is one book, podcast, any piece of content that you are reading or have read recently?
There's a great book called Conquer Your Everest, where an entrepreneur and climber makes great analogies of the similarities between both things and provides amazing advice at how to be resilient through the journey.
Oh, that's a great. I'm gonna have to put that on my list for sure.
It's really good.
Those were great. I absolutely love your answers, and thank you for that. Those nuggets of advice. Before we get to our final question for today, how can others learn more about your company and how can they get in contact? Or do you have social media, email, direct messaging?
Yes, we're active on LinkedIn, or we have a presence on LinkedIn, although we're trying to be more active. So LinkedIn is the best way to follow us.
Wonderful. What's your LinkedIn? Is it just the company name or your
Yes, if you just go and search for Elysium Robotics, you can find us there.
wonderful? Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing. I have one final question for you. What is most inspiring for you today?
I'm really inspired by the big visionaries like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and Bill Gates and those guys who had a very transformative idea and just persevere through it and figure out how to monetize it early so that they could keep nurturing and just change the world. So those are my big inspirers.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Rodrigo, for taking the time to chat with me today. This has been an incredible recording. So thank you for being on the Business Spotlight.
For sure, Kay. It was wonderful. Thank you for having me.